have a generator that will not start, although it sounds like it is working perfectly and just won't get going. So here's what it sounded like originally. I was told it might be electrical. I was told then
Spark plugs are out. I've got the holes covered with towels, and now I've got a little bit of a different sound here. Sounds like something's trying to turn over, almost kind of grinding.
this is one of the tests to see if it's dry locked. And it was not. Also thought that electrical looked a little funny, but it was not the problem either. Took off the bottom plate, and this is what it looks like down underneath. And I was instructed to see if that piece right there, you see next, if you can spin that using a tool to spin that big nut right in the middle, that means that your alternator will spin and it should be in good shape. That means it's not dry locked. That last picture was the exhaust pipe and some electrical that you do have to take off before you try to lower this out of your RV. All of these pictures are just electrical connections inside. I decided to take mine apart from the inside because it seemed to be able to pull it out a little bit easier rather than removing the wires from the actual generator. So I just took all these pictures just for reference so that I put everything back. There's all of my nuts and bolts. And I started lowering this thing and didn't realize originally just how heavy it was. So that's a car jack, and I've got some blocks there to ease it down nice and easy. It is 200 pounds maybe. It's very heavy. There's the starter that we thought might have been the issue. Still don't know what the problem was. Put the new starter in after getting a broken starter shipped to me from Onan. They sent me a new one for no problem
here.
now. The new starter in does make it sound like it's trying a lot harder, but still nothing. A promising thing though was that the bottom bolt spun and that this was still trying to move. And so just happened to hear something when I was moving it and found the culprit. So this is a bearing from the alternator. There's a top bearing and a bottom bearing, and figured that it had to be where that was coming from. So it was time to drop it completely out and move this heavy thing into the garage so I could actually take it apart and work on it. Again, just a bunch of more pictures of the pieces that I took out and the connections, and this was really more for me just to reference because I really had no idea what I was getting into. And I looked back at these pictures when I hooked it back up. This is a big part. Being able to pick up that inside part out of the frame with a tractor bucket or some sort of mechanical thing would be huge. I wouldn't have been able to do it by myself. Those were the pieces that were part of that broken bearing. This is just some look. You gotta look up underneath there. You do have to remove that pulley. There is the culprit right there with all the pieces still in there. And that piece is actually still left on the shaft that had to be removed separately. Got the new piece in. I think it was 60 some dollars. There it is. And it slides down into that piece right there. And then that is all the further I could get that on that shaft with my hand. So I really had to use I didn't have the right tools, but I kind of just beat it on. And it slides all the way onto that shaft. Got it all back in there. Felt pretty good about it. I did do some test runs in the garage before I hooked it all back up to the RV, so I was pretty confident that that was the problem because it was spun really smooth after I put that new bearing on. Getting this thing back up in there by myself was a bear. I used 4 of those ratchet straps and the car jack and just inched it up in there. Obviously it took me a while. And we're about to get to the payoff here. For about $65,
Alright, it's back in.
I fixed a problem that I had a quote for $1,500 from the
Got it all put together last
repair
night,
shop.
so here we go.
Not bad for a guy who doesn't even change his own oil. Huge thanks to these guys. This really wasn't that hard because of their help. Enjoy.